Hello, fellow crafters. It is Cindy here with Love to Scrap for Fun. Greetings from Nampa, Idaho, where the weather is in the 80s and it's cloudy, and it actually rained a little bit this morning. Last week it was in the 90s, dry and hot. But now the days are getting shorter and the grass isn't drying out as much, and pretty soon the irrigation will be shut off, and hopefully it won't be so hot it'll scorch the grass. But anyway, yeah, I'm busy always. Weekends are filled with doing my landscaping, trimming bushes, trimming trees, mowing my yards, picking weeds, and I have grown a big flower garden this year in the corner of my fence area in the backyard, and I have some in the front also. So I've been busy doing that, and I did grow a sunflower this year. I actually planted, 5, 6 seeds from a packet that was in my garage for, a few years. And so I thought, hey, let's just try it. And I planted them in the back of the garden in the spring, and one took. And this one sunflower is sprouting, multiplying sunflowers, from the same stem, and stems growing off of that. And I have to hold it up with sticks because it gets so heavy that it wants to just fall down. But anyway, I thought I would complete a sunflower junk journal to sell on Etsy. I haven't done that for a couple years. So this time I actually took a scrap of denim, and I embroidered a sunflower on that. I freestyled it. I didn't have a pattern or anything. I just took a white gel pen and kind of sketched a sunflower. And then I just already had these colors in my embroidery floss bucket. And so I just, however it came out, but hey, it looks good. I think it does anyway. It gives it some charm. So this is like a sunflower, pumpkin, autumn, leaf, fall themed junk journal. I tend to call them albums, but they're actually junk journal. This is made from junk, mostly junk from my stash. That's the way it's supposed to be, right? You're not supposed to go out and buy stuff to make a junk journal. So that's what I did. I used stuff in my stash. I had scraps of denim that I pieced together and sewed it with the orange thread in my sewing machine and zigzag stitched it together. And this is a 9 by 6 by 3 inches. This is from a cereal box. And the cereal box started out where I just covered the inside of the cereal box with this very thin sunflower fabric that you find at Joann's before they went out of business. That was a few years ago. And so then on top of that, I had one of those Amazon mailer envelopes that's kind of bubble in it, but it's not really bubbles. It's kind of like thin foam. So I took both layers and I traced it, and then I pieced together the denim on top of that, and then I sewed it together on top of that mailer. And then I added some extra thin fabric around underneath, and then I glued it on top of the cereal box. So there's quite a few layers in this, but it's still kind of thin. And I had this tie in my stash. I was going to make fabric ruffles out of it, but I decided to make it into a tie because it was too short to really use it as a wraparound, so I just sewed it to the edges on the top, and I put a fabric cluster on top of that and just sewed it on there, and it's there for good. And it makes a really nice tie. And the pocket, I put a thin piece of cardboard behind the denim, and then I put a layer of this fabric that has little leaves on it, and put it behind it and sewed it together so that it can easily be a pocket. And I added this tag that has a brad and a big jump ring, and I created a tassel with all kinds of ribbon scraps that are fall color related, and put it on top to give it a little pizzazz with a little tassel there hanging. And I have this fabric snippet cluster, whatever you want to call it, that has a bunch of fibers and a little gemstone in the middle, and I adhered that on top of there. So, and put a little bowl pin with a leaf charm to add some charm. So anyway, let us begin going through this fun journal. There was a lot of work put into this, and it looks very junky, very vintagey. There is a paper clip that I use scraps to make a hidden paper clip, and I just put it up there. Has a little sunflower from a little packet that I had of little sunflowers. And this is an index card that I cut, that I folded in half. This one is avocado dyed, and they just slip into this pocket. I did some little collaging on the side. This one is coffee dyed. There's some little collage stuff. And there's a lot of machine stitching, of course, on the edges of the scrap paper pages. And on the other side of this scrap paper, I had adhered a napkin, a fall napkin from my stash, and added a denim pocket with some layers of fabric and buttons, and there's some trim right there across. And that is, it's not sewed on. I did sew around the edges before, and then I adhered it on there with Fabri-Tac. And here is a library card that has some collage on it, and I sewed a little fabric tab on the top. Coffee dyed paper, I did some stenciling, and this is the avocado dyed paper. A little bit of stenciling, and this is a two-sided image, pretty image, and I made a pocket out of it, put a guest check in there with a napkin that's adhered on it. And there's a sunflower stencil. And this is some homemade rice paper that I made out of a napkin. I watched somebody's YouTube channel on how to make it. It might have been Natasha with Treasure Books, how to make your own rice paper out of napkins and glue. And then I hand sewed it, because you can't glue it at the sides because it comes apart. So I used embroidery thread and stitched along there and added a button. And here's some ephemera journal cards that's stamped on the back. And I also ran this through my, with a plate, a brick type plate. I embossed it through my, whatchamacallit, remember what it's called right now. I'm at a loss for words. Here's a guest check, and it's covered with a napkin. And here's a journal card with some deer and some more avocado dyed papers. And here is a collaged paper that this is not the original. This is a copy of the original where I added a whole bunch of different word pages, crossword puzzles, pattern paper, and butterflies, and some washi tape. I added a ruffle right there, or a fabric ruffle. I drew these on there, and it looks so good that I copied it. The original is in a different sunflower junk journal that I sold a couple years ago. So this is just a copy. It's nice and smooth, and it was sewn around the edges so you can tell, but this isn't real. This is just a copy. And the strings in the middle, I adhered some little stickers I had that look like little metal coins. And we've got a card that's clipped here. Here's another hidden paper clip that I decorated. And this one has a little dangle on the end. And this card is from a thrift store, and it's a box with some sunflowers, and it opens up and it's really pretty. It's made by Lean and Tree Wildlife Gallery. So it fits this theme really nice. And here's some more of the handmade rice paper. And the pockets on this side, and there's some buttons I sewed on there. And here is a tag that opens up, and it's got a couple pockets with some ephemera. And I did some stamping and machine stitching, added a fabric tab, did some stamping right there. And this is also embossed and stamped on the back and machine stitched. And here's another two-sided pocket with beautiful wildlife, fall colors, and another guest check that's decorated with a napkin, a blue pumpkin napkin. Here is a belly band, and I got some papers that go behind there. And it has a little hidden pocket with a little tag. And this is another hidden paper clip done out of my heart punches and some layered decor. And this folds out like this, so you can do additional journaling. Isn't that snazzy? I learned how to make one of these from Dear Julie when I did one of her things a few years ago, her classes, whatever you want to call them. And here is an embossed journal card, some stamping, stitching. And there's also a little tuck right there with the journal card. And here is this scrapbook paper was this design on this side, and the other side was plain, so I adhered a napkin on this side and machine stitched and distressed the edges. And I also added some clear embossing that kind of sparkles, if you can see that. And this is a flip up, and it's all decorated with different ribbons, machine stitching. That's digital, and there's a butterfly, fussy cut butterfly, and another sunflower. And there's a checklist here with about 10 pages here. 5 to 10 pages, probably 6 to 10 pages. Here's a cluster I made as a little corner pocket and a tag with some stenciling. Another top corner tuck made out of a cluster, and another embossed journal card with stamping and machine stitching and distressing. And there's a little bit of some stenciling that I did from a burlap stencil, and there's a sunflower stencil that I put on that coffee dyed papers. And here's another one of my collage pages where I just copied off the original because I had painted that myself with watercolors. And it turned out really good. And here's some stationery paper that has foliage on it. And some lined coffee dyed paper and a page out of a pretty book with some fall colors. And I did a decorated ruffle, layered ruffle. And the signature strings have some stamps. Graph paper or ledger paper. The other side of the book page with some really beautiful autumn scenes. And I did put some of these tabs on the side. It makes it easier to turn the pages. Stenciling. And here's another fancy paper clip, altered paper clip. And I painted that. This is the other side of that collage page. I didn't paint that. That was a fussy cut. But I did paint that one. This has 3 signatures in it. We're in the middle signature, almost completed. Here's a cluster right there that I made as a tuck, a bottom tuck with some journal cards. Here's some upper corner tucks, a double upper corner tucks with some collaging done right there, and a journal card and a little journal card. And here's the other side of the napkin page. And here's a little collage here with the owl. And it flips up and there's some trim I put on there. And it's machine stitched. And this is from a page from a book. Made a pocket with a journal card. And here's just a autumn envelope, and there's a paper clip with a dangle. And inside I put a couple of pieces of journal card in there out of some manila folders that I cut up. Oops, the dangle fell. I'll have to pick that up. There's a doily with a cluster on it. And here's another wildlife photos, fall colors. Made it into a pocket. And this is another guest check with decorated with a napkin of blue roses on a white pumpkin. And here's some handmade rice paper with a napkin that had some pumpkins, and children's printing paper. And this is the middle of the third signature, and there's the signature ties are decorated. And another layered ruffle tab. They're so fun to make. There's the rice paper, avocado dyed paper, the other side of the wildlife double-sided photo that's turned into a pocket. And there's a guest check with some sunflowers at the bottom. And here's the other side of the doily with a cluster decoration. There's another sunflower that I stenciled on there. And the last page is pretty fancy. There is a decorated envelope here with a top pocket that has a journal card that's like a ticket. You can see I did collaging with some real stamps around the edges. And then there's a little back pocket here. And here's another embossed journal card with some stamping, with some pretty sunflower on it. And then this comes out like this. There's page from a book and some book pages layered in there, and more journaling spaces. And underneath it has double pockets, and I just put a couple of tags there, and I had stenciled on them to make them nice, and so they're not thick, they're nice and thin, and they could fit into these pockets. And then this is a bookmarker that has a nice tassel held by a chain, one of the Tim Holtz chains. And that is a big brad, big black brad on top of there. Some machine stitching and just some collaging, and then I added a dangle at the bottom. Some signature thread, leftover signature thread down there. So it kind of hangs down there so that it kind of hangs right there. It looks really cool. But that's it. That is my sunflower junk journal made with denim fabric. And I'll be listing this in my Etsy shop. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.